We are not being listened to. That's the explosive claim from British farmers as Labour's controversial inheritance tax plan threatens to decimate family farms. Farmer Esther Rudge took to GB News in a fiery rant, accusing the government of pushing through disastrous policies that ignore the realities of rural life. Her frustration reflects a broader sense of betrayal felt across the farming community, and we've got the clip that's sparking a national conversation. Clip: Esther Rudge passionately explaining why Labour's tax reforms could spell disaster for British farmers.
No, nothing come from the government yet. I'm afraid I haven't got quite as glamorous backdrop as my colleague. I'm in the sheep shed. We're on lambing at the moment. So.
Because you know what, Esther, because you work hard, and this is what the government don't seem to understand. They think you're all landed gentry and you're £1 million worth of acres sort of sitting there, God knows, doing what you're taking your dogs for a walk all day, when you're actually out there doing the job.
Exactly, that is just it. We've got a lot of capital invested in the farm, but the actual money that we take home at the end of the day is tiny.
Well, this is the problem with this policy, Esther. I mean, it's, you know, even if it did work out financially, the money it raised, 520 million, you know, it's not enough to fund the NHS for a day, basically. Meanwhile, the government is spending 536 million on foreign farmers.
The message couldn't be clearer. Farmers are at their breaking point. Labour's planned changes, set to take effect in April 2026, propose a 20% inheritance tax on agricultural assets worth over £1 million. While Labour insists the policy will only impact the wealthiest estates, farming unions and rural communities are warning of devastating consequences. The exemption that once protected family farms is being stripped away, and with it, the lifeblood of Britain's rural economy. Esther Rudge wasn't just speaking for herself. Her frustration has been echoed by farmers across the country, many of whom have taken to the streets and their tractors to make their voices heard. In towns and cities, banners reading "Save Our Family Farms" have become symbols of a larger movement, as farmers organise food donations and public demonstrations to highlight the critical connection between farms and the food on our tables. This isn't just about numbers, it's about survival. Labour, however, remains firm in its stance. Environment Secretary Steve Reed has downplayed the backlash, claiming that 3/4 of farmers will pay nothing under the new rules. But those assurances have done little to calm the growing unrest. The Country Land and Business Association estimates that up to 70,000 farms could be at risk, a figure that stands in stark contrast to Labour's claims. For many farmers, this isn't about percentages or technicalities, it's about the very future of their livelihoods. The tension boiled over this week as the National Farmers Union, NFU, took decisive action, delivering a petition with more than 270,000 signatures to Downing Street. The petition, which has quickly become a rallying cry for farmers nationwide, demands that Labour rethink its approach. NFU President Tom Bradshaw and NFU Cymru President Aled Jones personally handed the petition to government officials, calling the policy an unjust attack on hard-working families. And the backlash doesn't stop there. Social media has become a battlefield, with hashtags like #Save Our Family Farms and #Stop the Family Farm Tax trending as more people join the fight. Farmers and supporters are flooding platforms like Twitter and Instagram with emotional stories of multi-generational farms at risk of being sold off or shut down. One viral post captured the sentiment perfectly. Labour says it's targeting the rich, but they're coming for the backbone of Britain instead. The heart of the issue lies in what farmers see as a profound disconnect between policymakers and the realities of agricultural life. Esther Rudge said it best during her GB News interview. Part of this is born out of a lack of understanding of how farming works. The farming community argues that the proposed tax changes fail to account for the razor-thin profit margins and high operational costs that define modern farming. Without those exemptions, many fear they'll be forced to sell their land to cover the tax bill, effectively wiping out generations of hard work. But it's not just farmers raising the alarm. Major supermarkets have reportedly joined the calls for Labour to reconsider, warning that the tax changes could lead to disruptions in food supply chains. With inflation already squeezing household budgets, any additional strain on agriculture could spell trouble for consumers as well. Yet despite mounting pressure from experts, industry leaders and the public, Labour has shown no signs of backing down. For many, the stakes couldn't be higher. Farming unions have vowed to keep fighting until the policy receives proper scrutiny, with protests and demonstrations planned in the weeks ahead. The question now is whether Labour can afford to ignore the growing chorus of dissent. As the 2026 deadline looms, the battle over inheritance tax is shaping up to be a defining moment, not just for rural Britain, but for the nation as a whole. Meanwhile, a parallel political drama is unfolding on the national stage. As Labour faces criticism from farmers, the Reform UK party is experiencing a surge in the polls, capturing the attention of disillusioned voters. For the first time, Reform has topped a national opinion poll, with 26% support, pushing Labour into third place. This dramatic shift in the political landscape is being hailed as a revolution by some and a warning sign for traditional parties by others. Former Apprentice star Trey Lowe described Reform's rise as extraordinary, attributing it to public dissatisfaction with mainstream politics. "People are fed up," he said in an interview with GB News. "They think, what's the difference? Politicians don't care about ordinary people." Reform's platform, which includes increased defence spending and stricter immigration controls, is resonating with voters who feel ignored by Labour and the Conservatives alike. Nigel Farage, Reform UK's leader, celebrated the party's milestone with a bold declaration, "This is just the beginning." Party chairman Zia Yusuf echoed that sentiment, stating on social media, "No pacts, no deals. Reform is headed for government." While critics argue that Reform's policies remain largely untested, their message of change is striking a chord with a public hungry for alternatives. For Labour, the timing couldn't be worse. As the party struggles to defend its tax reforms, the rise of Reform UK highlights a deeper issue, a growing sense of disconnection between politicians and the people they claim to represent. Esther Rudge's impassioned plea for the government to actually listen to farmers underscores a sentiment that extends far beyond the agricultural sector. What happens next is anyone's guess. Will Labour double down on its inheritance tax plans, or will the mounting pressure force them to reconsider? And can Reform UK turn its polling surge into real electoral success? One thing is certain, the political landscape is shifting and the stakes have never been higher. If you're as invested in these unfolding stories as we are, make sure to hit that subscribe button, give us a like and stay tuned. From Labour's rural revolt to Reform UK's meteoric rise, we'll be here to bring you every twist and turn. The battle for Britain's future has only just begun.